If there's a negligent discharge on a movie set, ultimately, who's responsible for that?
It would be the armor's responsibility.
Who put the dummies in Mr. Baldwin's gun?
Hannah.
Did you go to classes, or how did you get into it?
My dad's one of the best armors in the entire world, and he trained me in a failure.
The prosecution has put on quite a case in the Halyna Gutierrez-Reed trial, the former armorer criminally charged for the fatal shooting on the movie set Rust. We break down some of the most damning pieces of evidence against the defendant. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Let's talk about the evidence against Halyna Gutierrez-Reed in what is a very unique and very tragic case. She, of course, is the former armorer on the movie set Rust that was filming out in New Mexico. And back on October 21st, 2021, while rehearsing a scene inside of a church, actor and producer Alec Baldwin was handling an 1880s prop gun when a live round went off, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. Both Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed were charged with involuntary manslaughter. Baldwin's trial is going to happen in July. We expect it to last around 8 days. Big issue for him is he originally said that he didn't pull the trigger of the gun, but further ballistic and forensic analysis indicates that under those circumstances, that is not possible. The trigger had to be pulled. At least that's what prosecutors are asserting. Now, as for Ms. Gutierrez-Reed, she is charged with involuntary manslaughter, that she negligently used the weapon, that she acted without due caution or circumspection, but she is also charged with evidence tampering for allegedly trying to get another crew member to hide a baggie of cocaine as police were investigating the shooting. In keeping with the theme that Gutierrez-Reed ran a sloppy, unorganized, unprofessional operation with her allegedly smoking marijuana the night before the shooting, prosecutors seem to be suggesting that the defendant wanted to get rid of evidence. Now, the defense has taken the opposite position. They say it wasn't that Gutierrez-Reed failed in doing her job. It was that basically it was impossible for her to do her job. She was taking on the responsibility of two roles. Alec Baldwin was rushing the production. Producers were at fault for not keeping a safe set. Investigators didn't properly secure the crime scene and witnesses, so do we really know what happened? But let's focus more on the prosecution. Okay, let's list out 9 of arguably the most damning pieces of evidence against Halyna Gutierrez-Reed. Now, first up, let's start. Where did the live rounds come from? The prosecution suggesting that it came from Halyna Gutierrez-Reed herself. The defense suggesting it came from the weapon and ammunition supplier Seth Kenney of PDQ Arm and Prop. Now, little side note here, based on a statement that we heard in court, we learned that the prosecution doesn't necessarily have to prove that the live round came from Reed in order for her to be convicted of involuntary manslaughter, only that she loaded the weapon with the live round. But nonetheless, if she was the one who introduced that live round onto the set, that is really, really, really bad for her. With that in mind, let's listen to the lead investigator in this case, Detective Alexandria Hancock from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. This was huge.
The live ammunition that you seized from PDQ Props, what did you do with it?
We submitted all the live ammunition for testing with the FBI.
And did you receive information that the live ammunition from PDQ didn't match the live ammunition on the set of Rust?
That's correct. It didn't match at all.
And isn't that in line with what Thel Reed himself told you about that ammunition being semi-wad cutter?
Yeah, so the statement that Thel had made about the type of ammunition that they were using matched what we found and what was provided by Seth Kenney.
So you found at PDQ exactly what Thel Reed told you you should find?
Yes.
And it did not match the live rounds on set?
That's correct.
And here is Seth Kenney, the ammo supplier himself, talking about the live rounds. Remember, there were actually 6 live rounds found on this set.
Sir, did you provide any live ammunition to the set of Rust?
No.
Did you ever give any live ammunition to Sarah Zachary?
No.
Have you seen photos of the live ammunition that was found on the set of Rust?
I have.
Did you possess any ammunition that looked like that?
No.
Did you become aware that perhaps being blamed?
I started to sense that there was efforts to redistribute blame or the cause of this accident.
Mr. Kinney, did Ms. Gutierrez, with the assistance of Mr. Bowles, file a lawsuit against you?
They did.
Did you fully understand that you were being blamed?
At that point, it was quite clear.
Okay. Mr. Kinney, was that lawsuit later dismissed?
It was.
So that definitely helps the prosecution to show that the rounds didn't come from PDQ or Seth Kenney. That's what they're trying to prove here. But moving on from there, the prosecution also had to prove that Gutierrez-Reed is the one who loaded the prop gun the day of the shooting. And that seems to be what Sarah Zachary, the Rust prop master, testified to.
Did Ms. Gutierrez walk away from the cart with Mr. Baldwin's gun?
Yes.
And who put the dummies in Mr. Baldwin's gun?
Hannah.
Did you happen to see or take note of where she took the dummies from to put in the gun?
She says she was going to check it with Dave, so I assume the church.
No, I mean when she put the dummies in. Did you see her?
No.
Okay, you don't know where she got those dummy rounds from?
No.
So then she says she's going to go in the church and check it with Dave. Is that right?
Yes.
And let's hear from Dave. She's referring to Dave Halls, the assistant director, who we originally thought had handed the gun to Mr. Baldwin. Now, remember, Halls actually pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of negligently using a firearm in this case. He served 6 months of unsupervised parole. Well, he says Gutierrez-Reed did not fully rotate the gun cylinder to see all 6 rounds, not a proper safety check, which he admits it was his mistake too. But he also says he wasn't the one who handed the gun to Baldwin.
You indicated that you only saw 3 or 4. You didn't see 6.
I don't recall her fully rotating the cylinder.
Okay. You don't recall her fully rotating it?
I do not.
Okay. And even though the cylinder wasn't fully rotated, did you let that safety check sort of pass?
I did.
Okay. Were you criminally charged in this case?
I was.
And did you enter a no contest plea to negligent use of a firearm?
I did. I was negligent in checking the gun properly. And Miss Gutierrez appeared on my left-hand side with the revolver, and she said, let's do the gun check. She opened up the latch to show the drum of the revolver. She rotated the cylinder. It was empty. Checked the barrel. It was what is referred to as a cold gun. And Ms. Gutierrez just took a few steps and gave the gun to Mr. Baldwin.
That was a controversial piece of testimony in that both Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed had previously said that it was Halls who handed the actor the weapon. Baldwin had backtracked at one point, said it was Gutierrez-Reed. But if the jury accepts all of that, then this is a straight line of custody of the weapon that was used in this shooting, all in Gutierrez-Reed's care and possession, except, of course, for when it was fired by Baldwin. And there hasn't been evidence of sabotage, right? Like someone had secretly manipulated the gun or secretly loaded the gun with live rounds after she had checked it out and before it was fired. And one more thing, by the way, there is a strong argument for the prosecution that even if a live round was put into that gun by somebody else, it was Gutierrez-Reed's job to be the last line of defense. She should have checked the weapon. She should have made sure the gun was clear. That's why you have an armorer, to make sure nothing bad happens if someone did do something intentionally or by mistake. Okay, moving forward, we got to talk about some of the most damning testimony, and that is from firearms safety expert Brian Carpenter, a man who has worked as an armorer. He said he has worked on 100 movie sets. He was shown footage from the Rust set, behind-the-scenes footage, and he criticized everything he was seeing and basically Halyna Gutierrez-Reed.
Do you see anything concerning in this video?
And the number one thing is muzzle discipline. That performer, that stunt performer, I'm assuming that's a stunt performer right there, has got what appears to be live weapons, and he's got zero muzzle discipline. He's holding the shotgun, and if you back it up to the beginning, he points it almost directly at, I believe it's Joel Souza.
How is Ms. Gutierrez supposed to be responsible for what this actor is doing with this gun?
Well, from what I can see from the camera angles is, I don't know if she's present here, and it appears that they have live weapons out without her presence. If she were present, I would ask that she. Well, I would think that she would tell that performer that you need to put that weapon pointed down at the ground if she's standing there with him. Should
These actors and stuntmen already have the guns in their possession if they're not filming?
No.
Did you see anything noteworthy in that clip?
Muzzle discipline, but more importantly, there was a weapon exchange that occurred with, I didn't see a safety check between those weapons.
And did you just see Ms. Gutierrez come into the frame?
I did.
There you go.
Do you see what she's doing?
She's just walking in frame, in front of frame.
Does she have anything in her hand?
Could you back it up one more time, please? I was watching the stunt performer behind him. Okay, she's carrying the double barrel shotgun, it looks like. Muzzle end up.
Is that a proper way to carry that gun?
It is not.
Is that a safe way to carry that gun?
It is not. And you see the stunt performer in the rear swinging that handgun around, which what I was watching. He was actually pointing. He was talking and pointing with his firearm.
Again, this should not have been happening. This was her responsibility.
And more importantly, it helps to show that the shooting of Halyna was foreseeable in light of all of these problems on sets, including other accidental discharges. This wasn't one mistake, but many.
But then it came time for Mr. Carpenter to review footage of Alec Baldwin on the set. And there were some more failures he saw.
One more. I forgot the recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go. So, Halyna. Hi. Here we go. Come on. Well, I had to go closer because Danny did, so. You want... We should have had two guns and both were reloading.
That conduct that we're seeing on the part of Mr. Baldwin, is that typical conduct from an actor on a movie set?
No.
Why not?
Well, number one, he's basically instructing the armor how to do their job at that point. This is that moment. This is that moment I spoke about earlier. This is that moment that you need to stop and say, no, I'm not going to hurry up. I'm going to slow down. And we don't need to be, passing off weapons this fast or loading guns this fast. This is creating an unsafe and nerve-wracking situation, to describe it in more layman's terms.
Here we go. Let's try it.
Everyone right here, like in the path of the gun. Could you please move?
Did you hear that?
I did.
Tell us what's going on there.
It sounded like Miss Gutierrez attempting to correct the fact that she knew that Mr. Baldwin was pointing that weapon in an unsafe manner, and she was attempting to move the crew out of the path of where he was pointing it, knowing that it was loaded with blanks.
Is there a problem with attempting to move the crew?
That's one of the two things that should be occurring. You identify the problem that created the fact that the crew was in an unsafe position.
Now, that idea has been stressed by the defense, that she was a young 24-year-old female armor, hard for her to stand up, let alone hard for her to stand up against a lead actor, a producer, Alec Baldwin. Carpenter had a response to that too, though.
Does her lack of experience, in your opinion, change the amount of responsibility she has as the armorer on the movie set?
Once you take on the responsibility of safety for another person, you take on a responsibility of making sure that you do what's necessary, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's not in your best interest. And if that isn't something that you feel capable of doing, then you should never step into that position.
With all of this going on, the armorer needed to step in and slow things down, no matter who was in charge for this shoot or production. That's what Carpenter said. Now, another big connected theme here is not just that Gutierrez-Reed failed to correct what actors were doing, but as the armorer, she should have kept the safe set, but it was sloppy. It was messy, further showcasing her negligence. Again, the idea of how a live round ended up in a gun. Seeing these lapses in safety protocol helps the prosecution establish that she was not acting with due caution, that she was negligent. So here is both Mamie Mitchell, a script supervisor for the Russ movie, and then crime scene technician Marissa Popple.
How did Ms. Gutierrez compare to the other previous 24 armorers that you worked with?
I found her to be inexperienced.
Did you find her behavior on the film set to be professional?
I did not.
Did you ever take notice of where firearms were stored during filming or around the set?
I saw them on her cart.
And when you saw them on her cart, was she present?
Not all the time.
Can you explain what your concerns were with the state of the prop cart?
Well, I just never seen anything like it. It was messy. To me. It looked different than what I was used to.
These 2 rounds were sent to the FBI because they were suspected live rounds, which the FBI confirmed.
Meaning real bullets?
Yes.
And what's this one down here?
This is a dummy .45 round with a hole drilled in the side.
And these were just loose on the prop cart?
Yes.
Yikes. Now, of course, it is a question if this is entirely the defendant's fault or even her fault at all. I mean, the defense has suggested, and they submitted evidence regarding an OSHA report that management was responsible for a series of failures that resulted in the accidental shooting. The defense has said that Halyna Gutierrez-Reed was spared too thin. She was spread too thin with multiple responsibilities on this movie set, that she couldn't do what she needed to do. We are going to get to all of that in a minute. Arguably, some of the most damning evidence came from her own comments to investigators and police, where she arguably recognizes that she messed up. Like, this is from right after the shooting.
I just kind of wish that any of my coworkers could stop seeing me because I already feel super bad. I don't want to go back. Okay. I just want to get the out of here and never show my face in this industry ever again. I'm like the only female armorer in the game, and I just up my whole entire career.
Have you studied armory, or did you go to classes, or how did you get into it?
My dad's one of the best armorers in the entire world, and he trained me, and I'm a failure.
And in her later interview with investigators, you get the sense that there were lapses in safety protocols and judgment.
I went back through a bag that I had. This bag had like a bunch of loose dummies in it. And I went through and I checked all of them and I put them into 2 boxes. And so we had 2 boxes of 45 long Colt dummies that were mine from the last show. Originally. Yeah.
Okay.
And I had just brought those off of the old way, and they were in my car for like 2 weeks. I jumped right off of the old way into this. I was barely home for like a week. So, yeah.
But he told you to check your split.
Yeah.
And what you hadn't taken.
Yeah.
So he authorized you to bring.
He authorized me to bring, dummies.
Okay.
To be clear, she essentially admitted that she took ammunition from another production, rounds that she had left in her car for 2 weeks, and then put them in boxes for the Russ set. Prosecution saying that is not proper safety protocol. And there's much more.
This one is exactly what looked like was in there.
Okay. And that one doesn't have any holes.
So that's, yeah. Honestly, that box of dummies might have some wonky ones in it. And we got that, I think, a week ago.
Have you ever, in your history of working, encountered live rounds on the set?
Never.
Okay. And how do you know that?
Because every dummy I've ever shaken has been a dummy, and the other ones have holes in the side, and I've never experienced a round that looked like a dummy and behaved like a blank or anything. So, yeah, I am shaking all of them most of the time.
Now, did you catch that? because she acknowledges that there might be some, quote, wonky ones in the box of dummies, and that she shakes the rounds most of the time. By the way, when you shake a dummy, it usually rattles. That lets you know it can't be fired. Most of the time? Now, when it came to Alec Baldwin, Gutierrez-Reed acknowledges that there were more problems with him.
So what do you teach actors or crew members when it comes to gun safety?
So it really also depends on the actors too. But like a lot of the times they might not even listen to me or really pay attention or be on their phone. Alec was on his phone a lot of that entire thing. Normally I train the actors one-on-one. It makes them feel comfortable. It allows them to not be distracted and everything. And this time they had me training 3 people at once and a ton of producers behind me. The director is there too. The producers are talking to the actors. The actors were distracted even too. And I tried my best to work with all 3 of them.
Now, the prosecution can argue the fact that he was distracted should be even more reason to keep a closer eye on him when he's with guns. But on the day of the shooting, she apparently did not.
Which I thought it was pretty weird that like they immediately needed the gun in there like that quickly after lunch. The gun after that walks in with me and goes to Dave. Try to show it to Dave. Dave's getting talked at.
Inside or outside of the church?
Inside. He's sitting in the pew, and I think he's supposed to be Rust or someone. And from what I understood, it was just supposed to be a shot where, like, he's sitting there with the gun ready. And then also, Dave was just sitting in with it, and then I was going to come back in whenever Alec got there. But Alec got there, and no one called me in.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to do that last check before Alec got it because I had no idea that the gun had been handed off. And also, the video village, due to the camera crew quitting that day, wasn't working, so I had no way to see in there.
Now, on one hand, you could say all of this was outside of her control, right? What happened with the shooting. But if you listen to Brian Carpenter, who we mentioned before, the firearm safety expert, you could say that when guns are being handled, she should have made it clear that she needs to be in there. She should have been in that church when a gun is being handled by anyone other than her. By the way, I didn't get into all of the problems or damning evidence against Alec Baldwin himself with his upcoming trial. Maybe we'll do a sidebar on that. I think we should, what we've learned so far in this trial. But going back to Halyna Gutierrez-Reed, do you remember when I said the defense has contended that, well, Halyna Gutierrez-Reed wasn't given enough time, that she wasn't given enough resources to do what she needed to do? In other words, she was spread so thin, production made it impossible for her to do her job and keep a safe set. Well, if you listen to Gabrielle Pickle, the Rust line producer, that may not be true.
So when she asked you for additional armor days, you gave them to her.
Yes.
Did you actually double the number of armor days that she was originally scheduled for?
Yes.
And did Ms. Gutierrez ask you for additional training days?
There was an incident where she requested training that would involve Brady, which was a minor who did not fire weapons in the movie, and I denied that for insurance purposes.
At any point in time, did Ms. Gutierrez indicate to you that she did not have enough time to focus on her armorer duties because she was busy doing props?
No. The reverse would be true. So she focused more on her armorer duties and less on her props duties.
And did that create an issue for you? Let me ask you, did you ask Ms. Gutierrez to spend less time on armorer duties and more time supporting props?
On props days, yes.
And when you say props days, what do you mean?
Meaning where she was not acting as armor. They were not the armor days that we just referenced.
Okay, now moving forward, switching gears. Prosecutors assert that Gutierrez-Reed was unprofessional, that she ran a sloppy, unsafe operation, and they bolster that claim through evidence that Reed was doing drugs the night before the shooting. Here's Jason Hawks, a cell phone records analyst, reading messages from the defendant's phone.
It's LOL. I don't need that tonight anyways. Right on. I might go smoke in the jacuzzi soon, but maybe not. I'm so pooped. At 7:48 and 46 seconds p.m. local time.
Okay. And can you read that for us?
It says, headed down to get high out back, :B.
And let's focus on those drugs for a second, because the defendant is not only charged with involuntary manslaughter, but as I mentioned earlier, tampering with evidence. She's accused of trying to get a crew member to hide a bag of cocaine after the shooting. And we heard from that Russ crew member, Rebecca Smith.
Were you present at the hotel the evening of October 21st, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point that evening, did you go to Ms. Gutierrez's hotel room?
Yes.
Did anything unusual happen when you left Ms. Gutierrez's room?
Yes. She asked me if I could hold on to something for her. I said yes. She put it in my hand, and I walked out as there was a knock on the door.
And after you left the room, did you look to see what she had placed in your hand?
Yes. It was a clear Ziploc baggie with a green small Ziploc baggie inside, and there was powder inside the green baggie.
What color was the powder?
White.
When you were a younger person, did you have an opportunity to use the drug cocaine?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a recovering addict.
Are you familiar with what cocaine looks like?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with the way that cocaine is packaged?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on that experience, what did you believe to be in the bag?
I believed it to be cocaine.
And what did you do with it?
I threw it in the hallway trash can before even going downstairs to my hotel room.
Now, she said she threw it out because as a recovering addict, she couldn't have that with her, and she was angry. She was angry. She didn't want any part of what Halyna Gutierrez-Reed was doing. Well, there you have it. Some of the most damning evidence presented against the former armorer in the Rust shooting. That's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.